Welcome to Girl Read Your Bible, Sunday School for adults who missed it. I'm Nicole Waltz, your host for this podcast, brought to you by 522gals.com, a website dedicated to personal development and spiritual growth. Go and check it out. Girls, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. It has been a minute since I have been able to put another episode together. I've had a lot of things going on in my life. I was sick for a while, I was on vacation for a while, and we've had some difficult seasons in life going on, and it's been debilitating. And so in any case, I was a little stuck. And I had a very good friend who reached out to me and gave me some encouragement and helped me get unstuck. And that really matters. And I'm going to share more about that with you next time on Girl Read Your Bible, because we are going to be changing some things up about how we do the podcast. And so I think that we're going to focus more on themes rather than the chronological order. But today we're going to wrap up the story of Moses. And that's a little challenging and tricky, because we are starting in Exodus 19. And Moses' story goes on not just for the rest of Exodus, but for the next several books. So I'm going to do something today that I rarely ever do with you guys. We read passages together and then talk about it. And we are going to be reading passages and talking about it, but I'm not going to read the next several books. I'm going to summarize quite a bit. And I need you to know it's very important to me that you understand the value and the point of this podcast is for you to get in the word for yourself and read the Bible. So you can't just take what I say or my interpretation of what's going on. You need to read the Bible for yourself, because that's how people get all confused about what's really in there, and they miss some things that are really valuable and important. So I don't want you to miss anything. It's all important, but there's a lot of redundancies. And the series of Moses could literally take like a whole year. You could study just the life of Moses for an entire year and still have to go back. And there was always new things to be found. So in any case, new revelations, new ideas. So in any case, I want you to have the basis of the information, because this story, this time in the history of Israel, in the history of us, is extremely relevant to today and to the things that we deal with today. This is God instilling his law and setting up what he wants his chosen people to do and look like and live and all the things. So it's very valuable information. However, it's also just kind of a lot of redundancy, which we'll talk about. So I am going to leave that in your good hands to read the Bible for yourself, because it's really, really good and important. And what I'm going to talk about is the challenges that I have when reading this portion of scripture and how the Lord helped me with that. Because when you're reading the Bible for yourself, which I know you're doing it every day. I know you are, because it's incredibly valuable to your mental health and your spiritual health and even your physical health to read the Bible daily. So I know that you're doing that, but I also know that there's things that can be challenging and can be confusing. And so even for me, and I've been in the word my entire life, and there's still things and I read and I'm like, really, God? Like, this doesn't line up with who I believe you are. And so it's kind of like tripping points. And that was heavy on my heart to share and to talk about, because I think a lot of people, trying to read and understand and see this God of love, and then sees a lot of harsh things happening and get a little tripped up at what that means. So we're going to talk about all of those types of things today, and I hope that it really helps you. I'm sure that it will. I know it has helped me on my spiritual walk. I had been in deep prayer about some of the things that I found confusing, and how am I going to talk to the girls, God? How am I going to share your character and who you are when these are the words that are written? And I feel like I was granted some insight that I'm excited to share with you. But we are going to get started in the book of Exodus, and we're going to start at chapter 19. And this is the beginning of God revealing himself at Mount Sinai. So the Israelites have been wandering now for a couple months in the desert. They have seen miraculous things. We've talked about those things. They saw the parting of the Red Sea. Well, first they saw all the plagues and what happened in Egypt. They were spared because of the blood of the lamb on the door frame, which is a foreshadowing Christ, and so many incredible takeaways from that. They saw the parting of the Red Sea. They saw the destruction of the army of Egypt. They wandered in the desert and they needed water, and water was produced from rocks. They saw they were hungry, and they cried out and complained about not having food. And every day this magical manna appears, and they can have enough for each and every day. Every day their needs are supplied, just enough for each day. And there's so much meaning and takeaway from that. And then they whine about that they're sick of the manna, which I totally get. I would be sick of the same thing every day too. So no throwing stones there. I'm just saying, again, they're upset about something. They have a complaint, and again, God hears them and provides quail. And so they've seen so many incredible miracles, as do we, right? That's the takeaway. That's the point. Because when you're reading the story of the journey of the people in Israel, you learn a lot about who you are and what not to do. Because the people are wandering around, they're seeing all of these incredible miracles, and they continually doubt and continually complain. And that sounds mind-boggling. And even when you're reading it, you're like, come on, guys. Like, if you want something from God, haven't you learned at this point just to ask? Just ask. Just say, hey, God, we have a situation here. We're a little uncomfortable. We don't like this. We're confused, whatever the case is. And then he'll say, oh, well, let me take care of that for you. I've got this. Don't worry. Oh, you're thirsty. Well, here, hit this rock and water will appear. No problem. But instead, it's always like, it's the wrong spirit. It's the wrong heart. It's the wrong mindset. It's constant complaining about a problem instead of asking for help with the problem. And that's our takeaway. That's what we get, is this is how we are supposed to see how they could have done things. Now we learned this is how we can do things, right? So when we have a problem, it's like, my life is miserable. Why are you letting this happen? This is terrible. I would have been better off in Egypt. No, I would have been better off in the past. Whatever the case is, right? We do the same types of things. So reading through this teaches us the right way to do it by seeing how the wrong way plays out with a lot of consequences. And that's something we're going to talk about today, because God is a God of righteousness and justice, and yes, mercy too. So it's important to keep all that in context when we're reading through. There are consequences for sin. There's consequences for your actions. Even if you are a quote unquote good person, even if you didn't mean to, there's still a consequence for mistakes. So we have to learn and grow and try to do better so that we can have the best outcome, the best life, the abundant life. The instructions are all right here. And we can see the mistakes made by other people. We can also see examples of the people who get things right. And that is going to help us know how we should be acting and responding. So here we are at Mount Sinai, and God is revealing himself. And I'm just going to start this is where I'm just going to start summarizing, because there's a lot of Moses going up the mountain, coming down the mountain, going up the mountain, coming down the mountain. So he's going up the mountain to meet with God in person, and the entire camp can hear them, and it's freaking them out. They're scared by the thunderous noise. They know that they're in a holy place, and so then God sets up all these like rules. He's like, only Moses is allowed up the mountain. Then he also allows Aaron to come up the mountain too. He sets up a perimeter around the mountain. Don't let anyone come near the mountain. Tell everyone to go purify themselves, because God is visiting earth in this way, and that makes this holy. And people, being the people filled with sin, can't have access to that. It will be death for them if they cross this line, if they do this, because they're entering into something holy, and they can't, because of their sinfulness. So in any case, it sounds rough where he's like, tell all the people that they cannot cross this barrier, because if they do, they'll die. And there's a few things happening here where I'm like, well, that sounds a little harsh. God, you couldn't give everyone access? No, he can't, because he's a God of justice, because he's a God of righteousness, and because he's trying to teach you something at the same time. Learn to listen to me, people, because when you don't listen to me, it has consequences. And the people don't listen. Over and over, we keep seeing this. But Moses goes up the mountain, and God says, I've chosen these people to be my holy people. Let's go to verse 4. We'll read it together. And this is God saying to Moses, give these instructions to the family of Jacob. Announce it to the descendants of Israel. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians. You know how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you will obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my own special treasure from among all the peoples on earth. For all the earth belongs to me, and you will be my kingdom of priests, my holy nation. This is the message you must give to the people of Israel. And so Moses goes down the mountain, and he gathers all the elders, and he tells all the people, and the people respond, we will do everything the Lord has commanded. So Moses goes back up the mountain and brings this answer to the Lord. And the Lord says, I will come to you in a thick cloud. And he gives them all these instructions for make sure no one touches the boundary, because I'm going to visit the mountain personally, and tell the people to purify themselves and get ready. And so it's a very big deal. I want you to understand that it's a very big deal that God is meeting with humanity, that he's coming to the people. And I think sometimes we, in the current place that we live, in the current time that we live, we're post Jesus, so we have a different dispensation, we have a different grace covering, so it can sometimes be hard to comprehend the holiness and the requirements for that, because we have so much access to God through Jesus that we forget. I forget, right? That it was different, and that the access to God was different. And sometimes we don't have, even in culture today, reverence has declined, like even understanding reverence, right? Like 50 years ago, when someone came in the room that was a respected person, everyone in the room would stand and show like respect and reverence, because culturally that was the right thing to do. And today, people don't even know to do that kind of thing. Like, that's something that's lost. So imagine now going back a few thousand years, where there's a different understanding for reverence. And there's also a different requirement because of the grace that we've been given through Jesus Christ. Okay. So I culturally, in timeline wise, I just want you to try to consider those things. When you're reading, it's not just about reading, it's about understanding the context in history. Okay. I hope that helps a little bit. Anyway, email me if you've got questions, or DM me or something if you have questions or with that, or if I'm not coming out clear, because I think that's something really important to understand. In any case, Now they go up the mountain, they go down the mountain, up the mountain. Moses goes back up the mountain. The Lord comes down in smoke and, this pillar, and he's conversing with a human, with Moses. That's why Moses is such a big deal. Abraham, biggest deal before this. I would say for me, the lineage of big deals here would have been Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses. Okay. Moses is going to be a big deal from here on out. Jews today will still quote Moses. Moses is responsible for penning, we would say, like writing, we believe. Okay. There's some controversy about this, but for the most part, we believe that Moses would have recorded the first 5 books of the Bible, the first books of history. He's still a big deal in Judaism. That would be a huge that's still like the father of their faith, because they're still waiting on a Messiah, right? We're not waiting. We believe it was Jesus, and they think they're still waiting. In any case, they're still referencing Moses. He's a big deal. That's what I don't want you to miss. And when Moses goes back up the mountain, the Lord gives him the 10 commandments. We're in Exodus 20. And friends, this is one of them addresses you should memorize. This is one you should know. Where are the 10 commandments found in the Bible? Exodus chapter 20, starting in verse 1. And we're going to read those together and go over that for just a little bit, because they're the baseline for goodness, right? They're the baseline that I hope I'm right about this. I think all cultures that walk the earth today agree with these 10 rules. I could be wrong, right? I think I'm right, though. I think all cultures, all religions, even people who identify as not religious in any way, would still agree that these 10 established rules are pretty good rules to follow. Well, for the most part, because some of them are about honoring God. And if they are non-religious people, then they're going to skip over those ones. But for the most part, most cultures would agree with these. Let's read it together. Then God gave the people these instructions. I am the Lord your God who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other gods but me. You must not make an idol of any kind or an image of anything in the heavens or on earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the 3rd and 4th generations of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love and obey my commands. And I want to keep reading, but we have to talk about that because it immediately tripped me up. And I want to clear it up for you because I don't want it to trip you up. So if we're backing up and we're reading this word for word, God is saying, I'm your God. I don't want you to have other gods. I don't want you to make false gods. I don't want you to have idols, no idol worship, that was customary throughout the entire world. All the other religions would would carve out statues and things like that and worship them. And that was normal. That was what pretty much everyone else did in the entire world. And God's saying, I don't want you engraving any images of me, of anything in heaven that you don't make something that's supposed to represent me. Don't make something that's going to represent something else either. Don't have other gods. There's just me. Okay. And that was also different in cultures, because most cultures, well, I think all cultures at the time had multiple gods, and we have a mono god, meaning we have one, like there's one God, and they had all, the God of the sun, the God of the moon, the God of the sea, the God of whatever, like God of fertility, God of happiness, God of the harvest. Like there's all these different things going on in these other religions, and that's what they're surrounded with. So this is a new concept, all of this for them. I mean, they would have heard it through the heritage of Abraham, but I'm still explaining like what they would have been surrounded with in the rest of the entire world would be different from what God is giving them the instruction. And so conceptually, I mean, as humans, like think that through, it would make sense for them to feel like they should probably make some type of statue or something. They like to have something to see. The humans want something to see and touch and bow to. And God is not visible. And so that would have been a challenge that I'm not sure we can quite comprehend. And certainly we can't judge in this day and age, right? So in any case, that's not the part that trips me up, though. The part that tripped me up was, I lay the sins of the parents upon their children, and the entire family is affected, even children to the third and fourth generations of those who reject me. And I was like, that sounds pretty harsh, God. We got to talk about that. What are you trying to say there? You're going to punish great grandchildren over something I did that, whatever that this generation did. And so I have two takeaways for you. Take don't stop reading. See, that's what we do. We stop reading the whole thing and then we get confused because we're going to take one sentence and make it mean something that it doesn't because it was part of a bigger story, because there was more to be said. Friends, we do this in conversations with one another too. Don't stop listening. Hear the whole story. Because if you only heard this one part, it sounds mean and bad. So you have to listen to the whole part. And luckily, God continues with the next sentence and says, but I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love and obey my commands. Okay. What he's saying here, what my takeaway is for you, is that there are consequences for sin. There's consequences. It will affect your children. It will affect your children's children. It will affect your children, because you're setting up something bad. So he's really saying, because we're specifically talking about having other gods and having other idol worships, if you do this, it is going to affect generations to come, because they are going to see what you're doing, because you're opening a door for something. You're going to create habits and patterns in them that is going to be damaging. That's the consequence. He doesn't say, I know it does read like that. I lay them, like I'm coming for them. That would be, I would believe, a way to read it, of that I'm coming for them because you did this. No, he's saying, I see, like, this is going to be the consequence of sin. Okay. That's how I'm taking away from it. Because if you keep reading, he says, but I lavish my love for 1,000 generations on people who obey me and keep my commandments. Oh, well, okay. So see, where therein could be a contradiction if you're not reading the whole thing in context, because Abraham was the chosen. He picked him first out of the whole world. He shows up to Abraham, calls him a friend of God, says, I have chosen you. I am going to establish my people through your line. I'm going to make you a great nation. You're going to have more children than you can count generationally. You're more than the stars and sands on the earth and all of the good things, right? Well, Abraham's his person who obeyed him and loved him, and he chose to have this great heritage and to be this incredible patriarch, right? Well, we're not 1,000 generations out. So if he loved him, kept his commandments, and was good and all that, I'll lavish my love on you for 1,000 generations. So herein, I'm explaining my takeaway to you. My takeaway from that is him saying there are consequences generationally for sin, because you're establishing negative, bad, evil, whatever patterns and habits in your children, and then they will into their children, and so on, and it will be a problem. But I lavish my love. So he's saying, but I still lavish my love. Like, these sins are going to have consequences, so don't do them because it's going to be dangerous and bad for your children's children. But I have unfailing love for 1,000 generations. That's a long time. Okay. So you see where I'm going with, I hope that I did a good job at making sense of that, because that really helped me. Because initially at reading that, I'm like, well, God, that sounds like very unfair and that doesn't make sense. And so I prayed on it and I felt like God helped me make it make sense. So I hope that makes sense for you. Again, send me a message. Let me know what you think. Let's keep going. We're on verse 7. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. That is, when I was a kid, I've got to tell you, and there's many people who still believe this today. So, to each their own. Be careful with it, right? There's people who are, driving around, they're like, oh my God, or Jesus, whatever, because they're angry, like you misusing that. Try not to do that. That's a bad habit. That's a bad idea. I think what he's saying is probably more than that as a rule, to be honest. I think it's a lot deeper than that, but I could be wrong. So that one, there's debate about that of, where's that? What does that actually mean? Try not to do that, friends. Try to be better with your words and your language. And so when you're angry, upset, my dad would always just be like, oh my gosh, here's like a better way. There's like a side way to add something in of, cheese and crackers, things like that. People say sounds a little silly. I like when I work really hard at it, and I'm not perfect at it at all. But I do try hard. I prefer when my frustrated expressions come out silly. Okay. So to say, cheese and crackers, right? Like it's mean if you're saying it the other way, right? If you're taking the Lord's name in vain there, that's where that. We're reading out of the New Living Translation. So the official, way that you hear it is always don't take the Lord's name in vain. That's what that means. It's like when you're, now I personally think that taking the Lord's name in vain is a little different and a little more deeper than that. But I'm not going to get into arguing theology about what that means or don't. I'm saying, let's play it real safe over here and not misuse our mouths in any way. So, and again, I'm admitting to you that I am not perfect at this, but I will say it's nicer when you can say frustrated expressions that are silly, because it lightens the frustration, right? If you're driving around and somebody pulls out in front of you and you're upset and you're like, cheese and crackers, it helps you be like quite not as upset because you just sounded ridiculous. So see, look at you diffusing the situation with the positivity of your mouth by still expressing frustration, but in a silly, fun way. It makes life better. That's just a side note and a tip. We're going to keep reading. Remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. All right. And now later Jesus comes and tells us, I am the Sabbath. And there's a lot of argument with him and the Pharisees about work on the Sabbath and what you're doing on the Sabbath. And that was one of the things that they really were that they were very upset with Jesus about. And they were very, you can't be the Messiah because you're working on the Sabbath day, because he healed a man on the Sabbath day. And Jesus is like, that's not the point. You guys are missing the whole point. So it's important to understand context, because because we have information that the Israelites are not getting right now, right? Like we have, I don't want to say it that way. We have grown in culture and have different understandings. Plus, again, we have Jesus, so we're under a different dispensation and understanding. And that's what Jesus was trying to explain while he was here on earth. And we have record of that. We'll talk about those things in the future. But I'm just telling you that later, when Jesus comes and we're talking more about Jesus, I want you to know these things, because they are going to try to use it against him, because they get too caught up in what they think the commandments mean than what God is actually, what's the highest purpose, what's the most important things to be focused on. So in any case, we'll talk about this for a second too, because, there's different denominations of Christianity. So there's different beliefs within Christianity. Some people were very strong on the Sabbath is a Saturday, and some people were very strong on the Sabbath is a Sunday, and that it's to eat whatever. I would say actually I would agree that the Sabbath is actually would be Saturday because it is the last day of the week. God created the world in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested, and that's why he's establishing the seventh day. And can I just tell you that these rules that he's establishing right now are for you to have your best life. This is not this strict, difficult thing, okay? Here's how we're going to set up a kingdom, and here's the rules that we're all going to follow, and you guys are going to be set apart, and things are going to go well for you, and you are going to be my royal priesthood, and you are going to be an example to the rest of the world about how great I am as your God. And you, as a result, you're also going to have your best life. I want you guys to understand, and I want you to look it up. I'm sorry that I did not look it up before I did this podcast today, but I have seen research on the people who do keep the Sabbath day, and they observe it, and they rest one day out of the week. And and so look up the study on that. Google that and go down that rabbit trail for yourself. But I will tell you that they live longer. They live about 11 years longer, I think was the study. Again, you'll have to look it up. I don't want to misquote. But in any case, they live longer as a result of observing it. Why? Because again, God's giving us instructions for our best life. Rest is a valuable part of life. You know why I think I have a whole series I want to do on this, but I'm going to give you a little tidbit right here. I think that God makes this a commandment because he knows the way people are wired. And we're wired to work. And we're wired to be busy. And God's saying there is value in rest. Friends, even God, this incredible, we can't wrap our heads around what God is, right? All of that power, the creator of everything, and makes a point of resting. He rested and was restored. He reflected on the work that he had done and saw that it was good. He took time for rest and joyful reflection. And that is an incredible example for us. And here in the 10 Commandments, he's saying, I require you to rest. Take time to rest. Why? Because it's for your best life, physical, mental, and spiritual health. So I think it is really important. And while I'm not excellent at observing the Sabbath, as far as we don't do anything on one day of the week, I am much better actually at being very intentional at resting as opposed to being busy one day of the week, because because that study hit me really hard, and because I know the scripture, I also know it's not this requirement that we still I don't believe that. So some people do, and that's fine. By all means, you can't be wrong by overdoing it, right? So I still think there's value in it, and that God is assigning us to take time to rest. I mean, we could dive deep. I'm going to do a whole series on rest. It's going to be really good, but we're not going to do it now. So let's keep moving. I'm sorry. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes your sons, daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and foreigners living among you. For 6 days, the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything in them. But on the seventh day he rested, and that is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Now this one, now we're on the number 4. I'm pretty sure it's number 4. My favorite, because see, they're not actually numbered in here. We're on verse 12. Honor your father and mother. Then you will live a long, full life in the land the Lord is giving you. It's the first commandment with a promise. Honor your father and mother. We have to talk about it. We have to, because, I quote it to my kids all the time when they were young, especially. But we have to talk about it because there's some things you forget sometimes. I forget sometimes that not every family is a good situation. So I want to take a minute to discuss that. God is making commandments and rules to establish his people, his covenant. He's setting up a kingdom among the Israelite people, and he is telling them the instructions. He's not giving them variables yet. He will later. He is not giving them the what ifs. So I've had some sweet friends who have questions over that because their father and mother are not Christian, don't have faith, and are actually rather difficult people. And they're telling me they're angry I'm at church. They're angry going to Bible study or what have you. Like, they're angry. So how do I honor my father and mother when they are adverse to my faith? And it doesn't say, I want you to understand what honor is. You'll have to consider that. Honor and respect and caring for someone doesn't mean you listen to everything they say. Now, I will tell you, King James Version says, obey your mother and father. Again, I want you to remember that God is giving the broad instruction for us to follow that is going to give you your best life. So in most cases, listening, obeying, honoring your father and mother's instructions is going to give you a better life. You're going to have a long life. And so I would say it like this. Your father and mother in this day and age would tell you not to get in the car with strangers, would tell you not to play in the road, would tell you not to play with that kid who is carrying around something dangerous or has a bad, gets himself into trouble. And they're saying, I don't want you to hang out with this kid because I see the influence that they're having on you, whatever the case is. Okay. In most cases, you honoring your mother and father is going to keep you out of trouble. And so that is establishing this rule. He's telling children, giving them something like, honor your father and mother, listen to them. They're wise. They're older than you. They're going to know things. Plus, he understands the progression of growing up. And so the progression of puberty and teenage years and all the things that are difficult. So he's giving them clear instructions. Honor your father and mother. Obey their commands. They're going to try to give you instructions for your best life. I know, friends, that there are exceptions to this, and you have to remember the order of what things. So God's law is first. Your parents are still going to be underneath that. So if God's requiring or asking you of something and your parents are against that, well, God's law supersedes, okay? But in most cases, even if your parents are not on the right path or, they're not Christians yet, you still want to show them love and honor because you gotta hope and believe and pray for them that they are going to come to Jesus. But one of the ways of doing that and still keeping that door open and having that access is by still showing them honor and love and care and respecting their feelings. So maybe, you watch how you say things, or you're just mindful of their feelings too. They're people too. So if that's a struggle for you, if that's something you're dealing with, you want to figure out the best way in your scenario to show love and honor to your parents, regardless, but always know that God's law and what God's calling you to will always supersede. And everyone else is still secondary. This is still a good law. This is still God's law, but obviously there's an order. So if they're telling you something contradictory to what you know is God's rule or God's calling on your life, it supersedes this command. I hope that makes sense. Again, send me a message. We're going to keep going with the most basic ones. You must not murder. That's it. There's no extra. That was it. You must not murder. It's clear. There's nothing to miss there. There's nothing to read into. No murder. Murder is bad. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. Friends, some people say this means this is you must not lie, but this is so much broader than this. Yes, you should listen, but this doesn't say you must not lie. This is talking bad about someone else. We always call it lying. People always say, "Oh, thou shalt not lie." That's not what it says. And I'm not saying, obviously, that, I think that one goes without saying, right? I think that one was clear without saying. This was specific. Do not testify falsely against your neighbor. Who is your neighbor? Everyone is your neighbor, okay? So don't say something false about someone. Don't make up a story. Don't talk bad about someone else. Don't lie about someone else. It's bigger than that. Don't do harm to someone else with your mouth. That's very important that we take away what this commandment is to this day, right? To still really that one. Oh my goodness. If we could get that one right, we'd probably solve all the problems in the world. Let's keep going. We're on verse 17. You must not covet your neighbor's house. You must not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. Friends, covet is a big word, okay? We don't use it. It's common in today's language. Covet means to deeply want and plot to get. It is okay to be inspired. It's more than okay to be inspired by other people, right? If I have a friend who got a new car and their car is awesome, and I'm like, oh, I like that car. I'd like to have a car like that. How can I work to also get a car like that? Or, oh my gosh, I love this house. I would like to have a house like this someday. How can I work to get a house like this? What do I need to do? I'm going to pray about this. It's like, God, this is a desire of my heart. That's okay. That's all okay. Covet is when you want something in a negative way, right? Like I plot to get that from them. Bad things are going to come from it. More specifically, their spouse. That would be, but you know what happens? We've seen movies, and some of us have lived experiences of someone was after my husband, or someone was after, my family member, or whatever. Someone was a hot pursuit to break up a marriage because they wanted that person. That's coveting. Coveting is when you work to get something. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said it like that. You plot to get something. When you work hard and you save and you work to get something because you were inspired by what your neighbor had, and you were like, oh, that's cool. I'd also like to have that. I'll work hard and also get one. No, covet is not that. Covet is when you are plotting and you are thinking negatively on how you can maybe steal it, get it for yourself, or you're very jealous because they have something. If you go to your friends and they have a new car or house or something, and you're like jealous of them because you want what they have, but you have no idea how to get it. And you are not willing to work hard for it. And you're just upset that they have something that you would like to have, but you don't for whatever reason. And you're jealous of that. So you now covet it. You want it, but you're not willing to work for it. You're not willing to pray for it. You are just plotting on how to get it, or you're just angry and jealous that they have it, and you don't covet. These are the bad things. Okay? I hope that was clear. All right. When the people heard the thunder and the loud blast of the ram's horn, and when they saw the flashes of lightning and the smoke billowing from the mountains, they stood at the distance, trembling with fear. And they said to Moses, "You speak to us and we will listen, but don't let God speak directly to us or we will die." "Don't be afraid," Moses answered them, "for God has come in this way to test you, so that your fear of him will keep you from sinning." See, he shows up as this thunderous cloud on the mountains, and you just the power and the awe, right? And they're like terrified of what's happening, which still sounds silly to me. I mean, there's even as I'm reading it, I'm like, I still don't understand why they were afraid of a God that constantly provided for them. But, their lived experiences, the people that they were around, the cultures that they were surrounded with, other people talking, saying things, causing problems. Them receiving this commandment was just terrifying for them. It was new. It's not new for us. So again, I can't throw stones at what they were experiencing because our experience is different. So this is the part where I'm summarizing, because for the next several chapters and the next several books, there's going to be, for the next several chapters, Moses goes up the mountain, comes down the mountain, goes up the mountain, comes down the mountain. At one point during all this, Moses is up there for 40 days getting all the rules, and there's a lot of rules. And I have to tell you, friends, because this is the important part. I hate doing this at the end because I know some people logged off, but this is an important part. So if you're still with me, congratulations, because this is important. When you're reading through the rules, because we read the 10 commandments, okay? Those are the top 10. That's how we say it. There's 628 laws. There's all these laws God's going to set up with great detail on how to handle day-to-day things, how to handle sacrifice, how to build the altars, how to dress the priests, what they can eat, what they can't eat. There's so much detail over the next several books. Feel free to read it. Please read it, actually, for yourself. There's still good takeaways. There are still people who follow a lot of these instructions and their life is better for it. So I'm not saying anything about we don't have to do that. These laws are different because we're post Jesus. Okay. We're post resurrection. So we have a different grace. Understood. But I want you to know that these still carry weight. There's laws about what kind of clothes you're supposed to wear. I mean, there's so many details. I implore you, please read it for yourself, because God may show you something significant for your life personally when you're reading it that stands out to you, that's an adjustment you should make in your daily activities. And that's an incredible thing. But some of the laws and some of the repercussions, because a lot of it is, if they do this, then you've got to kill them. You got to take them out and stone them. Take them outside of the boundaries of the city and stone them. And the people are breaking the rules throughout this time. And God is telling them, yep, you're going to have to put them to death. He wasn't giving room for sin to grow. He was establishing a tough, difficult law because the people needed strong hand, because this was new and different. And it had to be stern. And that's just the way it is. And I don't love that. And when I'm reading it, you have to really read it with an open heart and a prayer, because God comes off pretty harsh. That's just the reality. And I had a really hard time with that initially of I don't understand. And God said to me, I don't need you to defend me. It's okay. This is what's in here. This is the reality. Know that all of this is done in love and mercy. And you have to read with that lens and know that this is the God who ultimately still kept forgiving them, kept dealing with their constant rebellion, constant complaining, constant doubt, constant sin, constant spitting in his face after everything he did. He gave them some simple rules. They couldn't follow them for one day. They couldn't follow them for 5 minutes. They couldn't give him the only thing he was asking for at any given time, despite everything he was showing up for them. And friends, if we look at this in our own life, if you had a person, a spouse, maybe you were dating someone, if you had a person, a friend, whatever, an employee, somebody who you were doing a lot of things for all the time and trying to make their lives better and helping them. And they were constantly rebelling, spitting in your face, all this stuff. You would be angry and upset too, right? Like, let's think about it from our children. Some go through really difficult phases with their children, specifically teenage years, very difficult. And so there's moments when you're angry and frustrated, but ultimately we still give grace and mercy and see it through the other side. And so God goes through these spells where he is very angry at their sin because he is a God of righteousness and justice. But luckily, I don't know if luckily is the right way to say that. Luckily, he's also a God of mercy. And so he continues to endure. And so Moses is up there getting these commandments because he goes up and he gets the stone tablets, written with the finger of God, and comes down. He's there for 40 days, friends. 40 days. And the people literally say to Aaron, we don't know about this fellow Moses. Like, that's the scripture. That's the line. We don't know about this fellow Moses. We don't, like, he's taking too long is basically what they're saying. Make a golden calf for us so that we have something to worship. And Aaron says, Aaron, his brother, the head priest. He's going to be the head priest of all the things. So he's like second to Moses at this time. And so he doesn't correct the people. He doesn't deal with the people. He says, take off your jewelry. You want me to make you a calf? Have at it. Take off your jewelry. Bring me your gold. We'll melt it down. We'll make a calf. And they do. That's what happens. Moses comes down after 40 days in the presence of God. And the people he hears this loud battle cry, and the people are worshiping a golden calf. Like, what are you guys doing? Did you just hear the thunderous commands of God? I'm up here communing with God, getting all the instructions for setting up our society, and you're worshiping a gold. It was like number 2 on the list of things not to do. It's literally crazy. So, I mean, number 1 and number 2. So actually it was extra bad. So in any case, this is where God is like, I cannot deal with these people. Like, are you kidding me? I'm going to wipe them out and start over. And Moses is like, no, and they have a conversation and God's like, I know. I'll let them, that's fine. It's really frustrating, but this back and forth happens. As a result, friends, I need you to know this, because this is where you're going to learn and grow right here. This is where I learn and grow. The Israelites are punished to wander the desert for 40 years. The consequence of their actions is that they are not going, all this generation, 20 years and older, have to die off before they can enter the promised land, with the exception of Moses and Joshua. And eventually it's Moses too. But all of these people are not going to make it into the promised land because of their constant rebellion, because of their constant distrust in God, because of their constant lack of loyalty, lack of faithfulness, however you want to say it, their constant rebellion against God. Fine, you guys are not going to make it in the promised land. Your children will, but you're not going to, because I can't trust you with it. I can't trust you with it. I've given you everything and you're still acting foolishly. So we're going to have to work with the kids. Okay. This is where obviously God's lavishing his love on the next generation. Okay. For clarity. But this generation that's there, they're going to have to die off before, they can enter the promised land. There's a lot of things that happen. There's some plagues that happen. There's an earthquake that opens up and swallows people because they are terrible and rebellious. And so, but there's a lot of consequences and miraculous things that are, consequences of sin during this journey. There is constant provision from God and constant complaining from the Israelite people. There are wars. There is so much in the next several books that I encourage you to read, because it is life-changing for sure. In any case, I want you to make sure that you keep your lens fully intact and know that ultimately, even after dealing with all of these people, who are doing terrible things, who are just behaving like such heathens. And God continues to show mercy. I want you to know too, friends, because this is something you'll hear probably a pastor say at some point. So I need you to know the journey that they were on, when they left Egypt and were going to the promised land, going to Canaan, should have taken 11 days. It's an 11-day trip. If it was a straight shot, they'd have just done it straight shot. Now it took them 2 months just to get to Mount Sinai and have the 10 Commandments and all the things. It's because God was trying to grow them and teach them. And he knew that this is how it was going to play out, but this is how the journey, in fact, did play out. Don't be like that. Don't be rebellious. When God is giving you an instruction, when God is showing up faithful in your life, remember it. Write it down so that when the next test or challenge or discomfort comes, you're not rebellious. It's okay, more than okay, to be uncomfortable, to go through hard things and express your mournfulness, your sorrow, your feelings. You can have all the feelings. That's okay. You have those conversations with God and say, I don't know why this is happening. I'm really stressed, but I trust you. I don't know how you're going to work this out, but I know that you will, but I'm still hurting right now in the moment. That's all fine. That doesn't upset God at all. That makes him feel like you have a relationship with. That's good. That's what you're supposed to do. So please don't misunderstand me. This wasn't that. This was, are you serious? Everything's not going perfectly. I don't like this. What the heck? Okay. This was a different heart about what was going on. This was a constant complaining and complete lack of faith in a God that was continuously showing up in incredible, miraculous ways. And they couldn't get it. And we know people like that. I know people like that who just can't seem to get it, can't seem to understand or appreciate all that God has done and all that they already have. Be careful with where your heart is. Keep your heart pure before God. That's what that means. I don't know how God is going to fix this, or even if he's going to fix it in the way. I mean, he's probably not going to fix it in the way I think he's going to fix it. But I know that good things are going to come. And either way, no matter what happens next, I'm still going to follow him. I'm still going to put my faith in God. I'm still going to trust in Jesus because I love him, because I am a follower, because I believe, because I have faith. These are the things that keep your heart pure before the Lord. So I hope that helps when you are going through the next several books of the Bible. And that is all that's all I plan to talk about Moses. Starting next episode, we are going to start talking about, we're going to dive in and start doing series with topics. So I'm pretty confident that my next series is on friendship. And I'm very excited to talk to you about having good friends, being good friends, and what friendship means and should look like for people of faith. So until next time, girl, read your Bible.